we're now going to have a response panel to Richard's remarks. So I'd like to welcome up to the stage Sue Stephenson. Sue is Vice President Community Footprint at Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. I'm sure she sleeps soundly every night. Sue has been deeply involved in the development of Impact 2030, which she'll tell us a little bit about this morning, and that ties directly to the comments that Richard has made. I'd also like to welcome Dr. Jürgen Brokatzsky-Geiger, who is Global Head of Corporate Responsibility at Novartis. He previously was Head of Human Resources, and thus bringing dual perspectives to the discussion today. Markus is Director General of the Swiss Red Cross that runs programs in Switzerland and in over 30 countries worldwide. Zahra, Darvishi, who you met earlier at the beginning of this session, who is Head of Corporate Citizenship Switzerland for Credit Suisse, is responsible for corporate volunteering, philanthropy and the Youth Unemployment Initiative. The panel is going to be chaired by Dr. Ken Allen, Senior Consultant to IAVE, President of the Civil Society Consulting Group in Washington, DC, and author of The Big Tent, Corporate Volunteering in the Global Age. Please, again, thank Richard and welcome the panellists to the stage.
And we want to begin that with some informed responses from the four people who Kylie introduced to you. After they each have an opportunity to share their reflections, I have a few questions, and then as there is time, we want to extend this out to you all and give you an opportunity to begin to share in the dialogue directly. Immediately following this plenary session, after the coffee break, a portion of the panel will move to forum room number 3 for the session on responding to new challenges. And those of you who want to dig deeper in the conversation and hear Richard's response to the response are invited to join us there. Okay? So the order in which we're going to do this today is Sue, Jürgen, Zahra, and Markus. This is not to diminish the importance of the NGO, rather it is to do what we in the NGO world know we do best, which is tell everyone what everyone else said and summarize it and bring it to a point. So Sue, let's start with you. And Sue is here in many roles, but one of them is as one of the key leaders of a new effort to develop a coalition of companies that will in fact commit to a focus on the SDGs, Impact 2030. So that's a portion of what she's going to talk to us about. Sue?
Thank you, Ken. And if we can just have the slide. I've just got 3 brief slides. So I'm with the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company, and from a volunteering standpoint, as with so many of the companies here represented, very much part of our culture. I'm proud that as a hospitality company, we're really evolving to a skills-based volunteering focus, which is serving us well in the 28 countries around the world where we're based. But since we have 5 minutes, and I'm going to, or 6 minutes, I think, and we're going to stay on very good, rigid Swiss time, I'm going to talk just a little bit about Impact 2030, which is a private sector, business-led coalition, as Ken said, that came out of a resolution that was passed by the UN General Assembly in 2012 that really for the first time recognized the private sector, the role that corporate volunteering can play. Traditionally, I think from a UN standpoint, very much a prior focus had been around philanthropy, but this really recognized the power of people or employees in the corporate sector to help capacity build. And over time, the focus has become on how those corporate volunteers can specifically help advance in a substantial way the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So there's a number of companies here represented in the room that are part of the initiative. So I don't forget any. We've got UPS, Google, Medtronic, GSK, La Caixa, Telefonica, and IBM. And I think I may be missing one. But just to touch on the, I'm going to have you advance that slide for me, if you would. There we go. So the focus in very briefly, the first part of the initiative is focusing, or what actually is to educate employees around the world about the Sustainable Development Goals. Part of the coalition, as you'll have heard, I've read many companies that are here in Europe and the US that do business around the world. And we also have a focus on bringing on board companies in China, in India. Tata Consultancy Services has come on board. But we see there's an opportunity to evolve corporate volunteering from being a focus around the West to it's really as a nascent opportunity for companies that are headquartered in other parts of the world. So that's something that we're, as a coalition, are extremely excited about, to take so many of the best practices that are represented in this room, for example. And then I also have to say, in addition to the private sector, there's part of the coalition is UNV, UN Office of Partnerships, IARVE as one of our founding stakeholders, and Kathy has played an incredible role with the development, Grameen Bank, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, etc. So the effort, we believe, is that, although it's business sector led, is just galvanizing all of these very critical partners around the world with the ultimate goal of playing a role in achieving the SDGs. So the first stage is to educate our employees around the world about the Sustainable Development Goals, and I'll come back to that in a moment as to part of the role that we're going to play in that. Promoting, let me just see, that's creating and facilitating avenues for cross-sector involvement. So if we, obviously this is where alignment with the IARVE, Points of Light, Volontaire, and the NGO partners that we have, we see the opportunity whether the volunteer actions are happening in communities where the employees are based or whether they go into other parts of the world sharing their skills and knowledge. There is great potential for collaboration. We really believe that collaboration is going to become such a valuable component of the role that we can all play with our organizations. For companies that have come on board, whether it's IBM, whether it's Google, whether it's Singtel, the opportunity to align with other companies that have a similar focus against one or more of the SDGs provides a unique opportunity. We, and as Richard said, the SDGs are universal. So whether it's from New York or Nairobi or Beijing to Bangalore or Lagos or to Lausanne here in Switzerland, for the employees, wherever they're based in your corporation, the SDGs are going to be extremely relevant. As Richard said, they may take a different focus depending where it is in the world, but they are going to be just as pertinent. These are global goals. They're going to be very complex measures and indicators, but these goals are applicable. At 12:05 on September the 25th, the gavel's going to drop, indicating the adoption of the goals. And our goal is to play a role in ensuring that your employees are aware of what those goals are, so that as we march forward for the next 15 years, they understand the role that they're playing in helping impact and create positive change. As we play a role in educating employees, and again, I'm going to touch on this. I think I put my slides out of order. But the employees through Project Everyone, which is an opportunity to educate 7 billion people around the world about the goals, employees, and particularly our millennial workforce, will understand that the work that they're doing isn't just contributing to the corporate strategy for volunteering, but in fact is laddering up to issues that impact communities around the world. The other area of focus is around measurement. This is where a large part of the funding of Impact 2030 will go. We believe, again, to steal Richard's words, what gets measured gets done. We've got to, once and for all, indicate ways of measuring the impact of corporate volunteering beyond ours. We can't turn up at the United Nations in 2030 and say that our corporate employees around the world donated 6 billion volunteer hours. We've got to be able to show how they impacted the various components of the SDGs. So we've got a huge undertaking underway at the moment. We're bringing together already leaders in the measurement field, whether it's Gallup and Nielsen, FSG, CECP, a lot of academic representation, but to start to dig underneath what it's going to take for that measurement component. And then finally, to ensure that there is, global representation, so that we do have this opportunity to focus just within all of the countries around the world. So moving on to the next slide, thank you. Just going to talk very briefly about the Project Everyone. Can I just get a show of hands? Who's familiar with Project Everyone? This is brilliant, because you're going to sit in about 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to go, gosh, that's what Sue was talking about. Project Everyone is an initiative that is taking place outside of the UN. It is funded in part by UNF, UN Foundation, and a lot of the corporate sector that are trying to create a platform so that employees will very easily understand the role that they're playing from a corporate volunteering standpoint. So just as those beautiful graphic icons that we saw with the Millennial Development Goals, these have been created. There is a avalanche, that's probably not a good word to use, but of communication that's going to start coming out over the next couple of weeks. The goal of Project Everyone is, as I mentioned before, to ensure that 7 billion people on the planet know the role of the Sustainable Development Goals and how it's going to impact their very communities. Print media, religious organizations, social media, media stars, the major players in the sports world have come behind starting to get this cadence of communication out there. Impact 2030 has funded an employer a toolkit, which will launch on the 10th of September. We have a conference call that UNF is founding that will show employers how they can engage to involve their employees. So if you're interested, ask me during the course of the day and I'll give you the details on the conference call. It's an open source toolkit. Ritz-Carlton's just funded translation into 22 languages. But again, we just want to ensure that employees around the world really understand the Sustainable Development Goals, and most importantly, how that's going to translate into the work that they'll be doing in the communities. So I think I've run out of my 7 minutes, but thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Sue. Jürgen, you're on.
Thank you, Ken. So good morning. I mean, what I will try to point out to you is very much influenced by my previous role when I was the head of HR for Novartis. And what I try to achieve is to point out that corporate volunteering needs to have its source in the heart of the employees and the culture of a corporation. And as a consequence of this, corporate volunteering will support the Sustainable Development Goals. As the head of human resources of Novartis, I once came around the 25 competencies to become a great leader and the 150 characteristics to develop in an individual human being. At that time, I thought if I want to commit career suicide, I should present such a strategy to the Novartis Board of Directors. Why do I say this? 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 169 individual targets with more than 1,000 indicators. This is not exactly a business-like approach. The target, the goal is not focused. Communication will not be focused. In Novartis, we re-engineered corporate responsibility and focused our efforts in 2 areas: doing business responsibly, which includes ethics, compliance, environment, and access to medicines, of course, because we are a pharmaceutical company. Both areas fit with Sustainable Development Goals 13 and 3 and are also related to some others. Conclusion, for me, as a company, we continue to be very much aligned with UN goals. Some UN goals-related actions of Novartis in the area of access to medicines are: the philanthropic Novartis Foundation will continue to deliver programs to eliminate leprosy and malaria and to pilot healthcare improvement projects. Our drug, Coartem, to treat malaria is the largest product of Novartis by number of tablets, and we will continue to be available for no profit, and we have now also new improved drugs in our pipeline as well. Then our profitable so-called social business to reach patients in remote rural areas, for example in India, is growing in its 8th year since implementation. And something looking forward, on September 24th, our chairman will announce in New York City a business initiative in the area of access to medicines, which I'm sure will catch the attention of many. It will be also around partnerships between Novartis, NGOs, health authorities, leading to concrete actions and concrete immediate help for patients and healthcare systems for low-income countries. These are huge commitments to Sustainable Development Goals, and they are worth currently more than $2.2 billion. As an additional cornerstone of doing business responsibly activities, we launched corporate skills-based volunteering within Novartis on March the 3rd this year. And our vision is to implement corporate volunteering within Novartis as a key employment engagement tool and not externally as public affairs instrument. We developed it in a way that every associate can be proud that we support volunteering opportunities for employees, and that we especially provide our people with a tool to define and create their own individual projects. What are the options for our employees? Volunteering initiatives created by employees themselves, by providing them with a platform to create projects and reach out for team members. This could be supporting local institutions, like 27,000 employees do in their yearly community partnership day, but also other projects, and not just one day per year. As an example, we have one employee after the tsunami in Japan actually engaged quite a number of employees from Novartis to go into the tsunami area, including where the nuclear power plant was damaged. And for more than 26 weekends, half of the year, they go there since 2 years now and do a lot of help. And this is an employee-initiated project, not a Novartis management-implemented project. Secondly, voluntary support our official company Lead to Corporate Responsibility projects. Example, as a company, we support an international training center in the middle of Tanzania. We have employees now sitting in Basel and developing for the Health Institute on their demand a compensation system, a performance management system, a marketing strategy so that they could offer their services also outside Tanzania. Some employees who are sitting in Basel are developing and helping bioequivalency centers built up in Ethiopia, in Kenya, and also in Zambia. So people on a remote basis sitting in their home base doing help and on behalf of the company in areas where it's needed. Third, voluntary support of private volunteering projects. So we have, of course, as many companies, we also have employees who are engaged privately with NGOs. One example, we have a lady who comes from Peru, and she supports since many years a center in Peru to help young women to find a job and to develop. And this is also supported by the database which we have put in place. So there are a number of sustainable development goals of the whole list of 17 who are supported there. Last but not least, volunteering by partnering with external organizations. We work with GGG Benevol. For example, some of our people work with migrants to learn German. Some help them to get through the administrative processes here in Switzerland. And we are also talking to the Red Cross if our employees could be of help in the Red Cross here in Switzerland. Our CEO created a Volunteer of the Year award because the Executive Committee clearly understands the importance of volunteering and the link to employee engagement. Are there obstacles to our approach internally? Just the usual ones. Of those people who always raise concerns. How do we control and approve employee-created projects? By the way, we do not control and approve. What might it cost? Will employees spend too much time on volunteering? Will they travel? Externally, when we talk to potential partners, the management capability of NGOs to deal with a big company is limited naturally. The trust is limited as well. We consider them as partners. We offer expert volunteers to work within the NGO's purpose and mission, but we do not want to delegate our corporate responsibility to them, meaning we do not engage in service contracts. Like, take my volunteer, we pay you a fee, like other companies do. Paying for service would be too easy, and no real deep involvement and commitment from the heart. Not many institutions are willing to partner in this case, because for some, volunteering is already a business or will, even more now, develop as a source of income. We believe that the level of active support of Novartis top management for volunteering creates additional employee engagement by recognizing visibly what our people contribute to society in general, and therefore also for the achievements of the Sustainable Development Goals. Volunteering engages and binds those who work on projects themselves, those who see this as a personal option in the future, and those who recognize that this is a great offer of Novartis. Although they personally might not be able to volunteer, it's a clear win for individuals. Our mechanism supports the Novartis internal culture of caring and curing, but has an external effect as well. Theoretically, 130,000 employees influence positively their private environment, so it becomes a win-win. This is our primary goal, and the result will of course support the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals for the human beings in need in the world, which makes it a triple win situation. The active linked to the Sustainable Development Goals will be an additional award because all involved individuals become part of a bigger purpose. A positive individual satisfying effort, an effort that is actively supported by Novartis, an activity which contributes to the goals of the UN, almost like wearing a blue helmet. What can you ask for more? Thank you for listening to me.
Now, does he put you all to shame out there? That was excellent. Thank you, Jürgen. Zahra.
Well, don't worry, I'm going to tell more. So let me just start with what Jürgen said about win. To be honest, it's about us. We can survive as corporate if we do things, if our society is stable. Credit Suisse is not going to make any profit if our society is not stable, if the economy doesn't grow. So at the end of the day, it's about how we can do business and how we can bring more sustainability in our society. And I think, of course, we have this SDG for a few years now, but I think when you look at the history, they are probably 50 years ago started that the corporates or people doing something for other human beings. And that's the nature of human being, doing something that makes good for me, feel good for me as a person, and also do a good thing for my society. So, and I think that's a tradition in, of course, is good to have the SDG to make it clear, to work focus and say what I can do as a person, what I can do as a corporate. And when we take a look at SDG in our company, there are different activities going on. I will try to mention some of them. The most important issue for us is education. If we make it happen that the education get in a certain level, lots of our social problems going to solve anyway. I mean, in lots of countries, we see that the government doesn't want that the kids get educated, because if the people stay dummy, they can manage to, do whatever they want to do. So education is the key point to have this economic growth, to have deal with poverty and all this stuff. And I think that's a very, very crucial point to tackle education and really see what we can do. I mean, we are a bank in Credit Suisse. We are a financial institution. What can we do in education? Of course, we can go and teach the kids to write and to read, but I think the most important is to get active and tell the kids how they can manage if they have $2 or €2, how they can manage it, if a youth is 18 years old, how he can pay his phone, cellular phone, how he can get his dress, how he can save maybe some money. And that's a very fundamental, basic knowledge that we can give. In global education of Credit Suisse, which started 2008, we really focus on kids and youth, and we have about 15,000 teachers that we train. We have about 100,000 kids that we reached. And the most important point is that in 2014, we decided to focus more to girls, because most of the countries, the girls are so disadvantaged to access to education. So we said, we are focusing on the girls. Other countries can focus on the boys. We focus on the girls, and we just have to make sure that in 4 countries, India, Brazil, China, and Rwanda, in these countries, kids can have a better access. And since we don't have the education, we don't have the expertise, we work with partners that they are really good partner in this field. And I must say that's amazing to see what they are doing, and even in financial literacy. And that's our focus since 2014, how we can improve the financial literacy education for kids. And one of the next example I would like to bring is sustainable economic growth. That's the SDG number 8, which we work on microfinance. Since 2002, Credit Suisse is one of the leaders in microfinance, and we have managed about 2 billion of assets. We don't give any microfinance, but we work with institutions. And the idea is a capacity building initiative. That means we're helping the other institutions that can do this business, and just trying to, I don't know, do very simple things. I mean, Richard, you mentioned some stuff, but that's exactly, it should be simple. It shouldn't be an enterprise with 100 people starting. We have stories about women in India that has just only 1 cow starting with microfinance. And after 5 years and doing a good business, they have 50 cows. And they can afford to give the whole village milk. And they also hired 3 people. So this is a nice story. They are drops, but the impact of these drops in the ocean is still huge. And I think that's what we have to think, and think positive, because there are so many problems. We cannot solve the problems, not even in, sorry, Richard, but to say in 2030. But somewhere we have to start and say, we are going to do something. And in this regard, with many other initiatives that we have for other SDGs, we are trying to focus also on corporate volunteering and say, we send the people that having skills to other countries, and these people are going between 1 week to 3 months, and or maybe some people doing virtual volunteering online in the office and trying to really give something back. Giving money is one point, helping the people to run a project, but the most important is giving the know-how and the knowledge to the people, because we cannot just always give money and go with our expertise there. We have to make sure people have a knowledge locally. They have to be independent. They have to make the things by themselves. And that's for us very important, and that's our really key issue, to give the skills and forward it to other people. That's so far from me.
Terrific. Thank
Sure.
you. Yay!
Thank you.
Okay, Markus.
Yes, I try to shorten it a bit if possible, but first of all I would like to say thank you to Credit Suisse that I can be here on this response panel, and also say thank you for a great partnership, and not only in corporate volunteering. And also we heard it, thank you to Zahra, she's very enthusiastic and very committed to corporate volunteering. Thanks a lot. So I quickly go through a few figures maybe on corporate volunteering, or volunteering first of all, in the Red Cross Red Crescent movement. The Red Cross Red Crescent movement consists of 189 national societies, the Federation and the ICRC that works in conflict and war areas, and we are the largest volunteer organization in the humanitarian world. We have the 7 fundamental principles that are common, a common base, and common values for all our work worldwide. And we have 7 dozens of millions of volunteers. There are different figures going around because it's quite difficult to measure, at least. And at least around 10 million volunteers are only working or helping in the sector of health, what is very important for SDGs. The volunteers have contributed worldwide for around $6 billion with the services in all those countries. And that's quite a lot. The Red Cross Red Crescent movement has more or less a turnover of 33 billion, and at least 6 billion have been helped with by volunteers. And all 180 national societies involve volunteers in their local programs and projects. These programs and projects have contributed to achieve the Millennium Development Goals already and will further contribute to reach the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The fact that the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement can build its strength not only on paid staff, but on a large volunteer base is an added value in contributing to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. The Swiss Red Cross has around 72,000 volunteers. About 13,000 work in social activities or help in social activities, 59,000 in first aid, life-saving all over Switzerland. About 10% are under 30. And the social value is about 78 million for Switzerland only. Without the volunteers, Swiss Red Cross would not be able to deliver many of its services. And worldwide, maybe, we work in around 30 countries and involving more than 21,000 volunteers in our projects of Swiss Red Cross. Maybe a few words to corporate volunteering within Swiss Red Cross. Corporate volunteering, also employee giving, is one way for companies to support Swiss Red Cross, apart, of course, from direct financial contributions. But it has to be part of a larger partnership strategy. And I just would like to mention with Novartis, we just saw the chairman, Mr. Reinhardt, last week and signed a second contract over 3 years for a partnership, a strategic partnership between Swiss Red Cross and Novartis in Switzerland, and corporate volunteering will be one goal in it. But corporate volunteering is often considered as a door opener for longer-term partnerships and for financial support. But very important for us it is that beneficiaries come first. So corporate volunteering has to serve, first of all, the beneficiaries and not the volunteers. And this is often a big challenge to match the two, and it can also be costly. We have a range of activities in corporate volunteering. I don't want to mention that. Credit Suisse is our biggest partner in corporate volunteering. And I maybe go ahead with that. What are the opportunities of corporate volunteering regarding the SDGs? Volunteers are from the local community and work for and in their local community. And they are in times of disasters and need. The volunteers are the first ones on the ground to provide support. So they contribute to build resilient communities and help reduce exposure and vulnerability to environmental shocks and disasters. For us, very important, thinking of the Philippines, thinking of Nepal. Then the volunteers are the ones who can identify and tackle inequities from the bottom up at the most important level of intervention, the people. Some more opportunities. Volunteers are important bridge builders between the community and the local authorities and organizations, and they are recognized and appreciated by government authorities for supporting them in fulfilling their mandate. And there are particularly some areas where the involvement of volunteers is considered crucial to enhance the access to nutrition. That's the SDG goal number 2. Health, we heard already, water and sanitation, to strengthen resilience, to support environmental protection. Some of these goals that you heard or saw before. Maybe I drop some of this. All of this, these are opportunities to demonstrate that volunteers will play a vital role, that no one will be left behind, as the SDG pledge says so. Some challenges, the number of volunteers is dwindling worldwide. Keeping the volunteers engaged is important and requires adaptations, not only on our side, but also on the corporate side. It needs flexibility in volunteer management, and that is a key. We are also trying to diversify our volunteers and our volunteer opportunities, and very important too is funding and investment in volunteers. To make volunteerism more attractive, We have to invest continuously into volunteer recruitment, into volunteer management, and into volunteer retention. And that resembles more and more to the normal HR cycles that you know very well. But it also needs a budget, and maybe that could be an interesting discussion afterwards. We counted once that a volunteer, depending on the project, costs us at least 50 francs a year, but it can go up to 500 or even 1,000 francs a year. And that's why I might challenge Jürgen to say it can't have a financial part in this collaboration. Challenges, corporate volunteering, I said so, we need new profiles, but I'm sure corporate volunteering is a win-win-win situation. First of all, for the company, for the employees of the company, and of course for us as Swiss Red Cross, what we can see very well in our cooperation with Credit Suisse. Maybe two more points. Volunteers should not replace professional staff and thus not be abused as cheap labor. That's what we have to be very careful within our own organization too. And maybe as a conclusion, to shorten it up, voluntary service, including corporate volunteering, needs to be protected, promoted, and recognized by the public authorities, what we not always feel that we have the support, as well as by the private sector. We need to reduce all the administrative obstacles that are annoying voluntary service and all the experience of soft skills that volunteers are experimenting need to be recognized by the employers. We further need to engage in a mutual dialogue between MPOs and corporates to improve the quality of corporate volunteering engagement. This requires time, mutual comprehension, and also a bit of money. And finally, studies have shown that volunteers are happier through voluntary service. Volunteers feel useful, recognized, and acquire new skills. So voluntary service is also fun. If you want to be active in Switzerland, come and join. You can make the difference. Thank you.
Now, we're all here because to some degree or another we are believers. And you've heard from 3 companies and 1 significant NGO, all of whom are in their own way believers. Okay? But that doesn't necessarily extend to the people outside those doors, to the businesses outside those doors. And it doesn't speak to the question of how you sustain the belief. We're talking about a 15-year effort. I'm looking at a couple of people up here on the stage, in addition to myself, who will not be in their positions 15 years from now, I don't think, unless they decide to grow really old there. So what has to happen to sustain this? You know, companies are known, particularly I've seen over the years in their volunteer activities, to commit to something only until the next new thing comes along, until someone comes up with a new idea, a new campaign, a new organization, a new coalition, et cetera, et cetera. So how are we going to work to maintain the energy? What do we need to do to keep this alive? Jürgen?
So when I say things, and I say things sometimes more black and white than I really think, yeah? Just to make it a little bit more clear. I don't believe this is a 15-year engagement, yeah? So, and I also believe, and not only believe, but I know that the Millennium Goals achievement are substantial and are wonderful, no question. But when you go out there and look how the world looks like in some of those countries, you know, even the Millennium Goals, you know, there could have been a lot more. And I don't believe that in 15 years, the world looks very rosy in terms of this fulfillment of the sustainability goals. So my answer to this is actually what I tried to say is, forget about the Sustainable Development Goals as a corporation. Find a reason why this is important for the company and the people in the company, which is engagement, which is the culture of the company. And then it doesn't matter if there are 15 or 20 or 5 Sustainable Development Goals, because it becomes part of the DNA of the company to do volunteers. And then it's independent from goals which come and go, as you suggest, as you say.
Well, Sue, you're part of launching this great thing. How do you react to this? How do you react to what Jürgen just said?
I think this is an incredible time with the launch of the goals. I think unlike the Millennial Development Goals, where many people outside our sort of arena really didn't know about them, not just here in sort of developed nations, but in the developing nations as well. I think the difference, I really believe with the Sustainable Development Goals, they are universal. I think there's an incredible global effort to ensure that they remain front of mind, because these are the most critical issues on our planet. We're talking about poverty, we're talking about inequality, and we're talking about climate change, which are going to be there. So certainly with the initiative we're involved in, corporate volunteering is core to the companies that are coming on board. There's an incredible opportunity to engage companies around the world where it is that sort of nascent opportunity. But I think what the Sustainable Development Goals provides is for employees to understand that the work that they're doing goes beyond what the company is saying is important to the company, that they're things that they can invest in advancing, propelling, creating a healthier future for themselves and their children. So I believe it's presenting a unique pathway that will help volunteers more broadly, but particularly corporate volunteers, really be a more galvanizing force. So I'm very excited personally about the opportunity that the SDGs bring.
How do you sustain the global structure to do this over time?
Well, I think this structure, I mean, it's business led. So it's for us, the challenge is how we bring on more companies from China and from Indonesia and from Africa. So, so that is, we're at the start of that 15-year journey. But that's how you create that global platform. We'll be then having corporations that not just, IBM as a terrific partner of the initiative, mapping all of their corporate volunteer efforts against the SDGs now, making an open source app eventually for companies so that volunteers are mapping what they're doing towards the SDGs. But they're in 128 countries, but it's the companies that are also headquartered in those countries as they come on board is going to create that global network. But I don't think we should undermine the power of our workforce when they become aware of the role that they're actually being given to impact these global goals.
Markus?
Yes, maybe I just would like to react. I'm very happy to hear that, and I can also feel it all over when I have to do with the corporate sector and also in my environment, my friends, the employees, they want to do something. They really, especially here in the north, where they don't have the some basic problems anymore, like in many countries in the south, they want to do something. And I was very happy to hear that you are doing something now also to inform or to teach your employees about the Sustainable Development Goals. And once you can link this enthusiasm with the goals, and then it gets incorporated into the culture, as Jürgen said, of the company, I'm quite positive that we can achieve quite a lot. And it needs these partnerships. It also needs private-public partnerships, but it needs our partnerships too. And that's a big resource to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals.